And thank you for joining us this afternoon on Graps TV and The Sicko Show. I'm your host, the Matty Man. See, we got 3 viewers in the door already. That's great. Appreciate you. Appreciate all of you. Got a couple of things on the plate today. It's been a crazy day. This is not going to be a long stream, guys. I appreciate you jumping in there. This is not going to be the longest stream I've ever done, but it's definitely going to be a profitable one, at least for information and so on and so forth. We are still talking about this television deal. After it's over with, after all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, we're still having discourse about the television deal. I'll get to that in a little bit. Got a few things on my mind today that are not listed in the stream schedule, but should be. And yeah, we need to get right into that. So, the Elimination Chamber has been announced for March of 2025, and we're coming in hot with that right now. Information still feeding in on that. We know that it's going to be in the UK, which technically means it's going to be in England, so to speak. Probably close to the area in which AEW will be promoting All In. Hey, thanks. See that coming right there. Hello, Dakota. Nice to see you. See here. And I want to discuss that part there for just a minute or two. Definitely not going to get terribly detailed into it until we get closer to time because I want to see how it lays out and everything. But I want to explain a couple of practices that were just made available or just brought to my knowledge with WWE's practices and how they book and how they choose house shows. Apparently, and I'm going to have this ready for you on our Saturday stream. Actually, our stream will not be on Saturday. It'll be on Sunday because we have the pay-per-view and Collision at the same time. And a couple of people that I work with are definitely going to be streaming at that point in time, and I definitely don't want to step on any toes. I don't want to be pulling viewership away, so I'm going to be doing that on Sunday. So our stream for Bad Blood and Collision and all the wrestling that's getting ready to occur between now and then will be done on Sunday, probably Sunday morning. Regardless, though, I wanted to bring to light something that's been brought to my attention as far as how WWE does their marketing and everything else, and why I kind of felt like this was a target. WWE's practices are this, and anybody can feel free to fact check me. You can look it up, do whatever you need to do with it, and so on and so forth. If WWE comes to a venue, let's say, I don't know, Lucas Oil Field, which is scheduled for next year as well. No other in other words, I'm trying to say this in a way that it doesn't come off as glad handing or anything like that. If another, not saying that another one could, but let's say, for instance, TNA blew up or MLW blew up. Or MLP, I'm sorry, Major League Pro Wrestling. Let's say Major League Pro Wrestling blew up. Let's say TNA blows up between now and then. You say, they got a deal with TNA. Hold up. If TNA approached Lucas Oil and said, we want to book a stadium show. Now, I realize that this is just, but I don't want to use AEW because everybody says, well, you're just an AEW guy. This is anyone. I want you to understand it's an anyone thing. This is not a WWE versus AEW type fight. This is a WWE versus all the promotions. All of them. The ones you like, the ones you know about, the ones you don't know about. There's a lot of good promotions over in the UK. So what happens is when WWE comes in and they sign an event, and they sign with the city, they sign with the location, they sign with all the areas around there. They say, okay, this is what we want to bring to you. In exchange for that, for 5 calendar months, surrounding that. Now, you can stick the event right in the middle of those 5 calendar months. No one else in that industry can promote. Otherwise, WWE won't do the deal. So why is this a big deal? If you're connecting the dots now, which is what I did immediately, thank you, Covalent TV, because they are the ones that turned me on to this way of thinking. They are the ones that, a lot of my information comes from there because they're a verified source. They're a verified, trusted source. I get a lot of my information from them. We share information because occasionally I come across some that they didn't know. Not often, but sometimes I do. And so we share information. One of the information pieces they shared is how WWE contracts are written. So the reason that this gives me cause for pause is not necessarily just that AEW is going to be running All In Wembley in August. So that's April, May, June, July, August. So they're out of that window. But here's an important thing. But Rev Pro. Okay, wherever WWE drops this paper or premium live event, I try not to be disrespectful of WWE, and I don't expect them to be disrespectful of me. Unfortunately, I'm usually disappointed even if I am going to be a gentleman. WWE cuts this deal with the UK group, a group in the UK. That means your independents can't promote and everything else. So in essence, for 5 months, WWE takes the promoting away from all of the wrestling organizations for that location, which gets me into a couple other things. We're going to talk about the TV deal a little bit. We're going to talk about what it means. We're going to talk about some fast numbers and things of that nature too. But the reality of it is, we're sitting here right now, especially if you're in North Carolina, we're looking at predatory practices right now all over the state of North Carolina. We got carpetbaggers. That's what we used to call them, carpetbaggers. And I know that's a southern term, but it really means something. So I'm not saying that they are, they are intentionally booking it this way to keep the press coverage down, or to keep the coverage down for All In. Now that's collateral damage. And a lot of people want WWE. I'm good with that. I'm happy for them. After 70 years, they ought to be on to something. But when WWE drops an event and everybody goes crazy, I want you to think about the collateral damage to the product itself. And once again, this is not hating. When you put it into proper perspective and you look at justifiable visual issues, you call them out. And one of the things I'm necessarily concerned about is that WWE's market share in the United States is not what it used to be. It probably won't be what it used to be at those rates, but over in Europe, a lot of people don't see live events on a regular basis. They're willing to dig a little bit deeper. My concern with this is that not necessarily, because AEW is going to get their market. It's going to happen. Tony's not stupid. He's not a cokehead. He's not anything that anybody says he is. Shout out to 10 viewers. Thank you. But the reality of it is, all they're doing is hurting themselves with this contract scenario, because AEW is going to get their people. AEW is going to get their people. They're going to get their events. They're going to get their location. Now, if WWE sprouts up down around Adelaide, Australia around February, now I'm definitely going to be calling that out. And I want everybody to love wrestling. Don't get me wrong. I love wrestling. I prefer AEW. I love wrestling. But if AEW were out here shutting down smaller venues with their practices, I'd be talking about that too. And quite frankly, with the Dynamite show last night, I'm gonna review that on Sunday. when I get my thoughts straight on it and how I want to present it, because I had some issues with Dynamite. I really did. Now, they had great matches. I had issues with it. I had issues with the show structure. I think we all came to a conclusion that Tony Khan was like, "Fuck it. I got my I got my TV deal. We got the announcement out. I'm going to take one show off. I'm going to throw a few matches out there that I know my regular sickos, obviously that's what the show's named after. I'm going to throw a few matches out there that my sickos are going to love, but I'm not really going to book this one as hard as I've booked getting up to this point. I'm going to take a day off. And that's going to be how I review Dynamite as well, because it really looked like in a lot of situations, and I could go on and on and on and on and on. If I'm reviewing Dynamite, which I'm going to give you the sneak preview right now, Will Ospreay and Ricochet was absolute magic in the ring. They told a good story, and they set up a feud, and they took care of a lot of collateral damage all in one match. We'll talk about some in-ring storytelling versus vignettes, things of that nature. We're going to get into all of that on Sunday. Sunday's going to be one of those long streams right after I get out of church. Be looking for it at 1 o'clock. And it's going to run from 1 till about 3:30. It's going to be a long one because I've got a lot of information up there. Right now, this is basically just a prediction show and bouncing a few things off the wall to figure out where we're at with the current state of affairs. Now, we do know that the television deal is for at least 3 years. We know this now. We know 3 years with a 1-year option. We still don't have the bottom dollar figure. That's not going to be released till next week because there's way too much speculation. Some people are saying 150. I've stuck at 170 because 170 made the most business sense to me, considering looking at what's there and not what I want to be there. And we're going to get into that detail now because the fast numbers came out, or the numbers came out for NXT, and NXT did 895,000 views. Over the air, that doesn't count the streamers, and so on and so forth. And the fast numbers for Dynamite last night did not surprise me at 680,000 because I've got a feeling, and based on the tweets that I saw, we're going to really get into the meat of Dynamite on Sunday. But the flow of the show was just, oh my God. It was really not the fastest 2 hours in professional wrestling like it has been for quite a few weeks now, leading up to this TV deal. So it did 680,000. That's great. I wasn't one of the 680,000, and I watched the show. You want to know why I didn't get counted? Because I streamed. The numbers that you are looking at, and this is my final statement about numbers. The numbers that you look at on a regular basis are connections that are made from a server to a host by hardwire, receiving by hardwire. And that includes over the air too, because your antenna is hardwired. Now, broadcasting wise, they have a way to pull those numbers. I'm going to say that one more time. The broadcaster has a way to pull those numbers. Those numbers are easily accessible. The numbers that are not easily accessible are people like me, people like most people I know my age now, because we're all cutting the cord. So everything we watch never gets counted. I don't miss the show. I'm not part of that because I consume it through digital means. I do not consume it through a set-top box, which is what they call your cable box. And I do not receive it by antenna or OTA or over the air. So I don't count. And guess what? With you guys, a lot of people here probably stream just like I'm streaming. You don't count either. You don't count in any of those numbers. And when Raw goes to Netflix, they will have no way. The only way they can possibly count it is by IP addresses. And I'm telling you right now, no one in their right mind is going to write a script to sniff the IP addresses of everyone who watches one show. That ain't going to happen. It's too much manpower. It's too much monitoring power. So come January 2025, you're going to have no fast numbers. You can say, oh, well, we know by the bandwidth. We know by the clicks. Well, if you've got 100 million people there and 90 million of them click on it for 5 seconds and click off of it, that doesn't mean you had 90 million viewers. It just means you had 90 million people that wanted to check it out. And it's going to be the same thing for the AEW numbers, because as they have announced, Dynamite and Collision are going to be simulcast through the Max app. So that means there's 100 million available people there, because that's how many subscribers Max has on their financials, on their records. There's going to be 100 million people there. 10% of them are going to check the product out, and it will not register on the numbers. Because once again, no one's going to write that script. A, it's loaded. B, it violates all kinds of privacy laws. Really, you can't write it. There is absolutely no way we're going to be able to account for people. And we can't account for everybody who's watching right now. Hey, shout out to 16. Wow, this is going up there. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Welcome to my TED Talk. I'm kidding. But getting back to what I was saying, there's absolutely no way whatsoever. And of course, my phone blows up all day long. And it's junk. Okay, anyway. There will be no way to account for the numbers. So we might as well just get off of this right now and quit. I don't look at numbers. And when somebody said, oh, well, look what NXT did, I'm like, yeah, of course, it's over the air. When you get into the fast numbers, you've got to figure some stuff out. Smackdown literally lost in their transition from Fox to USA. Year to year, if we did a year-to-year comparison, and there was college football going on last year, SmackDown lost 800,000 viewers. But they really didn't. What's up, John? I see you over there. Thank you for joining in, man. I see you over there. Hot diggity, man. I see you. Thank you. Yeah, there's no way. They're not going to be able to pull them. So we might as well get out of that right now. The other side of that thing, too, that bothers me a little bit is if you get caught up in numbers, you forget the entertainment value. You know why I watch WWE? Do you really want to know? I watch WWE because I've got 4 or 5 wrestlers that I really pull for and I want to see them do well. I'm not going to tell you who they are. A few of them actually follow me. And those are wrestlers that I care about their career, and I suffer through, and I say suffer because a lot of things they do I don't need. I've been watching wrestling since 1973. There's a lot of things WWE does that I simply don't need to enjoy the program. I don't need the vignettes. I don't need 5,000 promos. I don't need somebody to set the table for me. That's just me, though. Because I've just been watching it for so long, I see stories when they're coming together. So I do watch WWE. And I do care what happens to the show. I do care about the quality of the show. I also watch AEW, which I happen to love because they don't have all that much. I don't need everything that everybody else needs. I don't need a vignette to tell me what happened between commercial breaks. I don't need it. I don't need a recap. I don't need news shows. I don't need any of that. Man, some of my buddies showing up. This is awesome. Hey guys, I appreciate y'all. Shout out. Mainly because we're getting ready to switch topics. I don't know if you can hear me over the top of that. Mainly because we're getting ready to switch topics. The overall for everything right now, and the best part of it all, is watching all the other podcasters have to eat crow about the TV deal. That's been my entertainment for the day. But I do watch WWE for a lot of things. I don't watch it for storylines, and I damn sure don't watch it for wrestling content, because they have like 25% of the show, any of the shows, and sometimes less than 25% of it is actual wrestling. Now, they've been doing better for the last couple of weeks and so on and so forth, but there were shows in there. There was a Smackdown here not too long ago. It had 19 minutes of wrestling in a 2-hour show, and the Raw previous to it had 28 minutes of wrestling in a 3-hour show. I come for the wrestling. I don't necessarily hang out for the story. Shout out to 21. Hey, we're going up there. Thank you. Let me let this clear, yeah, because as I understand, it bleeds over the top of what I'm doing. Yo, what's up, man? I see you. Covalent TV. I was just talking about y'all. Talking about where I get my information from, and, you know, so on and so forth, and who my main, y'all are my only source. Covalent in the house, y'all. Covalent in the house supporting the stream. Thank you. Thank you. And that inspires me. Here we go. Back to my other talking point, though, about WWE. I watch it for the wrestling that I want to see. If Natalia's in there, I'll watch the show. If Karrion Kross is there, I'll watch the show. You know, I'm a fan. If trying to think of who else has got my attention lately. Honestly, right now, those two do. Damian Priest has got my attention a little bit. Rhea Ripley's got my attention a little bit. I really hope when the contracts are starting to get when contracts are starting to get situated, I hope she gives AEW a look. I really do. I'm putting that out there. And I don't care. The biggest concern I'm going to have down the road, though, and I'm dead serious, I'll close this segment out with it. The biggest concern that I have down the road is that WWE is going to drop a UK show like close enough to AEW Grand Slam, and that's going to piss me off. Because if they put it in a situation where AEW cannot compete, and by the way, Covalent, I told him that I got that tidbit from you about the contract deal and how WWE does their contract deal, and that was where I started the show off today. Why I had a problem with Elimination Chamber, because they're dropping it in March, that close to All In. I'm concerned about how AEW is going to be able to promote that show All In with them dropping it right there on March. And I swear to God, if Tony has to move the venue, the next stream that I cut is not going to be safe for children and most adults. It just ain't. It won't be. But that's neither here nor there. If they drop one that close to Grand Slam, I'm gonna be really pissed off. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm really kind of pissed off about this too. I'm just trying to be cool about it, because hey, I'm sitting here with 22 viewers. I'm happy as crap right now. This is the most I get during a day stream. So I'm enjoying it. We're gonna have a little talk. We're going to talk about some WWE stuff that I don't particularly care to talk about, but otherwise, how in the world am I going to have anything to talk about? That's what's coming up, and that's what we're getting ready to hit here. Give me just 1 second to pull that up. Let's see here. There we are. I wish I had a broadcast partner, too. If I had a broadcast partner, this would be so much easier. But let's get into Smackdown for tomorrow. I'm thinking they're finally going to do this dumpster match between Mia Yim and Chelsea Green. In all honesty, it's probably only going to get maybe 8 minutes tops. And I'm kind of torn on where I think they're going to go with it. But if Mia Yim does not win, and I know it's called mention, I know everybody can correct me later. If Mia Yim does not go over Chelsea Green, I don't know what the hell they're thinking. But give or take, that's probably where it's going to land. Chelsea Green's probably going to pick up the win over Mia Yim in a match that easily she could walk the dog with all day, every day. She could probably whip Chelsea Green's ass on less ground than it took her mama to have her. That's irrelevant. Looks like, just looking at it and looking at the recents and everything else, I'm going with Chelsea Green on that one. This one I don't understand. Naomi versus suitcase carrying bitch. That's the best I can come up with. I don't even understand why this match is going on. I don't think Naomi's going to win. Tiffany probably will go over on this match. And I don't have a count yet on how many matches Naomi's lost this year. But at some point in time, they're going to have to give that woman a W somewhere here and there. Yeah, AJ Styles is going to be there. Who cares? I really don't care. Trust me. I could care less. A triple threat ladder match between Cornholio and his buddy, the Street Nuisances, and Old DIY. Does anybody think anybody's going to beat the Bloodline on this one? I sure as hell don't. Bloodline goes over. Bloodline 2.0. God. Bloodline 2.0. No, it ain't doing anything for me anyway. But, it does something for everybody else, so here we are. And honestly, that sequences me into Bad Blood. Saw a lot of people today expressing great dissatisfaction at the layout of the matches. And I've been trying to tell you this for weeks now. If Roman Reigns is back, he's top of the card. He is top of the card. So for those of y'all who were spazzing out over Drew McIntyre and CM Punk going at it in Hell in the Cell, which hadn't been Hell in the Cell since, when the last time Edge did the tables, ladders, and chairs, my dad was still alive. Yeah, Hell in a Cell ain't been Hell in a Cell since then. It's probably going to be a pretty moderate match, and shout out to WWE for making this the curtain jerking segment. This needed to be the opening show because I'm sick of this. I was sick of this feud before it started. I didn't have any. I had no love for this feud to begin with. There was nothing for them to be fighting over. I actually went back through some of the tapes and everything else. CM Punk wasn't even acknowledging Drew McIntyre his last run 10 years ago. I don't understand. A lot of this is somewhat contrived. Like it or don't like it, believe it, laugh at me, I don't give a shit. This stuff was contrived from the beginning. Then it turned into being over a bracelet, and now it's not over a bracelet, and it's like, pick a struggle. This thing's got like 800 storylines in it. And on top of all of this, I had to deal with WWE drones en masse trying to figure out how in the hell you could have a disqualification in a no DQ match. They're not going to change the rules of Hell in a Cell. They're just going to change the violence in it. And that's basically it. There's not going to be any violence, but the rules are still the rules. No DQ. No DQ. And God is my witness. We had literally there were strings of people going, Well, they could have a count out. How the fuck you have a count out in a cage match? There is no count out. There's no disqualification. I mean, the Demon Finn Balor, they stopped the match for 10 or 15 minutes to sew his head up, but that really, I mean, for real? That's where we're going with this? No, 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 no. Curtain jerking is where it belonged in the first place. It needs to be the opening match. It's not going to set the tone. And please, for the love of God, make this the last match in this segment. Because it's already not cool to begin with. But please, for the love of God, make this the last segment. Pretty please. I mean, we're just begging you. We're begging you, or I'm begging you. Now, everybody else might be down for it. I'm not down for it. I'm done with it as far as that goes. You know? And I think everybody else is done with it. Does anybody else think that this match is going to sell? Okay, me neither. Then we got, what else was it? Give me a second here. Then we got Bayley and Nia Jax. Does anybody think Nia Jax is losing this match? Does anybody think Nia Jax is losing this match? Shout out in the comment section if you think she's losing this match, because I don't. I don't see her losing. I don't see. But then again, sometimes they throw you a curveball. I don't see the curveball coming here. We just got the title off Bayley. Nia apparently has some kind of value aside from being a Samoan, which seems to be the only value you need on SmackDown. You just need to be Samoan. That's just pretty much how it goes. Above and beyond that. But she has more redeeming qualities than Bayley. I don't see him putting the title right back on Bayley. We're not going to be bouncing titles like we did with Braun Breaker and everything else. Still think that was a shitty move. Nia Jax over Bayley in what should be a squash probably won't be a squash because it's Bayley. But other than that, I mean, it's just one of those scenarios where I'm trying to think of a valid way where Bayley could actually win this match to suspend enough disbelief to put Bayley in a hot seat. Again, I mean, it was not exactly a stellar run when she had the title. It's only been a couple of months. I don't think anything's going to improve. Not that Nia Jax is doing that bang up of a job, but she is holding the title warm for whoever's going to get it. I thought at one point in time it'd be Lyra Valkyria, but apparently I'm wrong about that. They're going to put a title on her at some point in time. Just a matter of when. Let's see. Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Damian by landslide, because what's going to wind up happening in the next match here in the co-main event. Can we get off of that shit? It's not the co-main event. It's the match before the main event. And hopefully it'll be heated enough to keep the next match going. I doubt it. But the reason I see Finn Balor losing this match is because you got Rhea and Rhea versus I'm sick of this feud too. I really am. Rhea versus Liv Morgan. Believe it or not, I think Liv Morgan is going to go over the top of Rhea. I think Damian Priest goes over the top of Finn Balor. So, depending on how that match goes, you can probably figure the other side's going to lose. So, if Finn Balor pulls it off, maybe we get a Rhea title with no point whatsoever. I mean, there's no win there. It doesn't add anything to anything. And it's not a co-main event. It's just the match before the main event. Can we please stop doing that? Pretty please. Because it doesn't exist. There are no participation trophies in life. Just stop. Just stop. Main event, they've declared, is going to be Roman and Chody versus Solo is about how he speaks. And Jacob Wildman Fatu. This is going to be our introduction for Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns. This match is really between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns. Solo and Cody are side pieces, and Cody is like a fifth wheel at this point. He's not even a third wheel. He's like a fifth wheel on an SUV. So I'm thinking about this one for a minute. This is the one I've been arguing about in my head all day long as to which one makes the most sense for their janky storyline and somehow to give the Bloodline 2.0 some semblance of credibility and still managing to keep Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns apart enough to build up. Everybody's got in their mind that Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns can go. Now, I'm going to just tell you this right now, and let's see how many viewers I got so I know how many I'm getting ready to lose with this one. We got 26 viewers. Hey, Cody, how you doing? You're not the Cody, are you? Please. So, anyway. The match is between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns. Cody Rhodes doesn't even act like he wants to be in the match. At least that's not the feeling I'm getting. Now, if I'm getting the wrong feeling, somebody set me straight. But it's like Cody acts like he's dialing it or phoning this one in to begin with, and Solo hadn't had much to say, which is not a bad thing because Solo just stop him too. I'm done with Solo. They will not, let me say this again, they will not put Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns in a one-on-one match because we had this thing that happened at NXT on Tuesday with a person named Julia, however you want to pronounce it, and Roxanne. Julia basically phoned that match in because it was so... They're saying she needs to learn the WWE way. What is that? I saw a good wrestler, potentially good wrestler, fighting a WWE superstar. And I think WWE took a look at that match and said, you know what? Maybe we ought to take a little bit more time with Jacob Fatu. Get him in a few singles matches until he's wrestled. I say you keep them apart until he's wrestled 15 singles matches with other WWE talent. Why is that? The WWE way, with those mental clocks in their head, and I've got to hit this mark, and I've got to be at this point, and we have to do all of it for the hard cam, that's the WWE way. The other 597 promotions available out there that I know about in this world don't care about a hard cam. They care about crowds. They care about what the fans have to say. And they work it until they get what they want out of the fans. Now, if that means that they have to work 15 minutes to get it, they work 15 minutes. If they have to work 30 minutes to get it, they get it. WWE is just used to fans just going, this is awesome, whether it is or is not. And trust me, we're going to get a shit ton of that tomorrow. And none of it's going to be awesome. Not a damn bit of it's going to be awesome. It's going to be, some of it's going to be passable. Not all of it's going to be that great, but the crowd itself is designed to cheer for horrible shit. And that's a fact. So, for everybody saying, oh, this will lead to Jacob and Roman, if they're smart, no, it won't. And if you're smart, no, it won't. Because there's levels to this, and Roman ain't on it. And when I say Roman ain't on it, I don't mean Roman ain't on it for the merch sales. I don't mean Roman ain't on it for the poses. I don't mean Roman ain't on it for the hard cam style. I don't mean Roman ain't on it for the pauses on the ramp, for the aura. I'm not saying Roman ain't on it for that. Roman ain't on his level wrestling. And one thing that I will say about independent wrestlers that I absolutely love is when they get into the quote unquote deep end of the water, like what happened last night in that Ricochet and Will Ospreay match, when they got into the deep end of the water of that match, instinct takes over. There's not a style at that point. It's straight up survival instinct. They got to get through the moves. They got to get through the match. It becomes instinct, and they work, and they call it in the ring. That's what Jacob Fatu can do. I've seen his MLW matches. That guy's a fucking beast. And they've already nerfed him as it is to put him in line with Roman Reigns. It's going to be an ugly ass match. And not because Jacob Fatu can't carry his end. And not because Roman Reigns can't carry the marketing side of his end. Eventually, they've got to get in there and actually do the damn thing. And if they get in there and actually do the damn thing, Jacob Fatu is going to show heads and shoulders better in that ring. Now, maybe not necessarily on the mic. Most of his promos I saw were just basically, I'm pissed off, fuck this, let's go to war. Now, I might have missed some really good, heartfelt promos, but a majority of his promos were literally, this is how I make my fucking living. I'm going to come in and kick your ass. That was his whole promo. So maybe not necessarily on the mic. I don't know. Haven't seen enough mic work out of it. But in that ring, which is where it matters if you are a professional wrestler. Now, if you're a soap opera star, vignettes are where it's at. But if you are a professional wrestler, eventually you have to get in that ring and professionally wrestle. That's where it's going to go south. That's where it's going off the rails. Because if they go longer than 15 minutes and that Fatu instinct kicks in, like it does for most independent wrestlers that I've seen so far, Roman ain't got a chance and he'll look stupid as hell in the ring. Guarantee it. And the match will look ugly because it won't be a hard cam match. It will be an actual wrestling match. Roman will not be able to keep up. Now, I'm not saying he can't keep up on the mic. I'm not saying he can't keep up on the merch sales. I'm not saying that he can't keep up in this stupid-ass aura thing that we come up with. Shout out to 31 viewers. Thank you. I'm not saying Roman can't keep up with him on the mic. I'm not saying Roman can't keep up with him in all the WWE metrics. How they decide. Not how you decide. I don't give a shit what Hunter tells you. You guys have no say in what you see. Says you will not. But if they put those two in the ring together and it actually comes down to a wrestling match, that's why they're not getting together until he learns the WWE way. Because I thoroughly agree. I think they nerfed Julia big time. Now, somebody on the other stream, the one I was in with Covalent, said they humbled her. You can't go off being this big-ass star and come in here and run roughshod over our people. And I just don't think you're going to be able to do that with Jacob Fatu. Now, I could be wrong. Money could talk. Reputation could go to hell in a handbasket. I could be completely wrong on that. They could have paid him enough for him to sit back and go, yeah, nerf me. I don't care. The bag's big enough. I only got to do this for 2 or 3 years, and I can go somewhere else with my bag and do what I want to do. Ricochet. Anyway. But when it gets into the deep end of that match, without a doubt, Roman Reigns is lost. I've seen him get into some deep matches, and the match goes south in the WWE style with certified, bona fide WWE superstars. I don't want to see him get in the deep end with an indie wrestler who only knows one speed when it gets deep. When you start getting winded and you start having to rely on your instincts and calling that match in the ring, that's where it's going to get ugly as fuck. No question. Not even a question in my mind. Now, who's going to win this match is up in the air right now. I really do need to see the closing show for Smackdown tomorrow. I'm thinking right now, based on popularity and potentially merch sales and so on and so forth, I got to feel like Cody and Roman are going to win that match. But I don't think the Ulafala thing and all that other garbage, I don't think any of that stuff. Once again, we're having a fight over a bracelet, a necklace. I mean, hey, that's the WWE way. You can call it the Ulafala, whatever you want to call it. It's peppers on the necklace to me. And it's always been peppers on the necklace because nobody ever bothered to explain this thing in 40 years. I've seen hundreds of people wearing the Ulafala and they never explained it. It was just a thing. It didn't mean anything. So when this comes down to it, I don't think Solo. Hang on one second here. Thank you. I don't think Solo can carry the match. I don't think he carries the win. I don't think the win would help him. He's like 2 or 3 and like $1 billion at this point. So the win ain't gonna help him at all. The win won't help Jacob Fatu. He's too new. That's fine. Understood. But the win could help Roman Reigns. It's kind of hard to say though. But gun to my head, anything in the world, Roman and Cody, just because of merch sales and everything else. Plus, it pushes the show forward. Gets me into my final segment for the night. I said it was going to be a short stream, and I really appreciate it. We got 31 people. That's more than I ever hoped for. Thank you very much. Love the numbers. Love how it feels. The TV deal is done. That bell will not unring. Tony's HR is not $150 million. All of WWE is not $150 million. I'm thinking they're at the 185. I'm solid on 170. But 170 is enough to run a show. It's enough to run 2 shows. Hell, it's enough to run 10 shows. From that standpoint. The deal is done. The deal is over. Time to move on. The wrestling match between Will Ospreay and Ricochet made perfect sense if you know how to do in-ring storytelling and if, as a fan, you understand in-ring storytelling. And the beautiful thing about in-ring storytelling is it's open to interpretation. Now, the stars may tell you what they were trying to accomplish in the match, and you may accidentally get it during the course of the match. That's the beauty of it. There's nothing predetermined in a predetermined sport. That's the way AEW does business. Now, they're trying to get some vignettes in there, and I applaud them. Not necessary. Because I think we all agree right now that there is not one damn thing Tony Khan is going to do to convert a hardcore WWE fan into liking AEW. It doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. So Tony has to build fans. Now, the streaming deal will help. The Max streaming deal will help. But at this point in time, with a lot of the stuff being on stream, we're not going to have solid numbers going forward. So that's a dead battle. There's no battle to be had there. The only numbers you're going to get are things that are physically connected to a wall, be it either an antenna and over the air or a set-top box in cable television or Uverse. They're all set-top boxes. That's what we call them. That's the only number that we're going to be able to measure. We're not going to be able to measure Raw, and everybody says, well, WWE is going to make them figure it out. No, they're not. That's not going to happen. We have privacy laws. We have all kinds of stuff. And to do something, to do a script, to get the numbers off of a stream, you have to violate so many privacy rules. It's not even funny. And cable television, unlike the rest of the internet, does not have safe harbor. If you don't know what safe harbor is, look it up. Cable television and their streaming subsidiaries are not subject to that. In fact, they are regulated much harder. They don't get safe harbor. So if they do a script to give you those numbers, guess what? They're going to be violating privacy law. So it's not going to happen. Let's quit doing that. Doesn't need to happen anymore. It's a dead argument, the whole 9 yards. The matches are fine. They're different. They're different for a WWE fan. That's the way of it. It's the way it's always going to be. So let's just try to get off of this from here on. Let's just, and I hate to say it this way because it sounds so glad-handing, but let's just enjoy what we enjoy. Stay in our lanes. Leave it alone. I try to do that most every day. Now, some days I get a little itch to go fuck with people, and I do. But I pick out the people. I don't just generally go all over the net like a fucking drone. If it's somebody that has always bothered me and I feel like responding that day, I respond. That doesn't happen very often. And the reason it doesn't happen very often is because I can't say I don't enjoy the particular stars that I'm working with. The ones I enjoy, I enjoy. So I can't say that the entirety of WWE sucks because I still have wrestlers that I enjoy. Now, I like AEW a whole lot better for obvious reasons because it's more what I grew up with. This is how wrestling was told. WWE came along with the clowns. They actually came along as the WWF, 3 W's and an F, with clowns and stupid shit. And they were mainly up in Madison Square Garden. And occasionally you would catch them on an NBC show. Not very often and anything like that. And it was different. It was interesting. They actually told you what they were doing. They actually spent more time telling you what they were doing. And it was moderately interesting. But they've taken it to a level that's absurd at this point. They've gone from just simple storytelling with a few vignettes. They've taken it all the way to the extreme absurd level of giving you recaps after a commercial break. Like, you can't remember what happened 3 fucking minutes ago? You need a recap of that? Okay, I don't. Y'all might. I don't. And no, everybody's not getting home at a break, at a commercial break. So that doesn't hold water with me. So, regardless of this, the deal is going nowhere. AEW is going nowhere. So we're here. You might as well deal with us. And if you can't deal with us, pack yourself up and get the fuck out. Please. Because there's more of us than you realize. Don't look at the numbers. And you're going to find out when that max deal drops. And out of those 100 million there, I'm going to say at least 1% of them are going to be old school wrestling fans. All of them. So who's to say AEW doesn't pick up a fan base of people that are older like I am and actually enjoyed that style of wrestling when the NWA put it on, when the AWA put it on, when WCCW, World Class Championship Wrestling, put it on? So who's to say that 1 million people out of that 100 million aren't like that? Then what's your argument? You got none. So the best thing to do is just leave it alone. At least try to anyway. I know it's hard to do on the internet, but we're all here. Anyway, though, we've been at this for about an hour, and I said that's about where I was going to keep it at today. We're going to have our show on Sunday as not to get involved because I like helping out Covalent TV with numbers and things like that. And I really enjoy what they got to say, and it gets me motivated. So we're going to be doing our show Monday after church. It's going to be probably around 1 p.m. Eastern. So be on the lookout for the Sicko Show here on Graps TV. at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. But at this point in time, I'm just going to have to say goodbye. 36 viewers is a big deal to me. I love that. I love you all for being here. Thank you. Because you had, I know I got better things to do some days than sit down and watch streams. I do it to support my content creators, and I thank you for supporting me. And I'm going to just go ahead and send you guys off with a fond. We got at least a couple of hours of wrestling coming between Smackdown and Bad Blood. I don't know how much actual wrestling's going to be there. Not taking a dig, just calling it what it is. Smackdown 2-hour show. I looked at the card. I see maybe 30 minutes of wrestling there. Bad Blood. I don't see an hour and a half of wrestling. It's going to be a 4-hour show. Regardless, we got that much to look forward to. And we've got Collision under the new television deal. We've got Rampage coming up tomorrow night. Rampage is already getting stacked up pretty good. Harley Cameron's going to be doing a match with, oh my goodness, I just blanked on that. Anyway, I'm sorry, I just blanked. I just knew Harley Cameron was in a match for it. So that tells me that after last night's Dynamite, they did some extra good work. Very appreciated at all times. We're going to be back. We're going to be back Sunday around 1 o'clock Eastern. I'm going to run a stream to cover Bad Blood, cover Collision. I'm going to cover a little bit of Smackdown, mostly Rampage. And we'll pick back up on some of the other talking points I've got as I refine them. But for now, I'd like for you guys to have a great evening. We got some football coming on here in just a little bit. We got the Atlanta Falcons playing. I forget who they're playing. My kid likes the Atlanta Falcons, so I'm all in for the Atlanta Falcons tonight. But I want to say to everybody else out there, especially if you're in North Carolina, we're coming next week to take a look at your properties and see what all needs to be done. We're also bringing water with us. We're bringing a little bit of supplies, things we can sneak in, because apparently they're taking supplies now and they're trying to centralize them into FEMA. That's the latest thing I'm having to deal with, and I've got to get permission to travel and everything else. But yeah, we're going to be bringing relief and supplies. So if you've got thoughts and prayers you want to drop, how about dropping them for those folks up in the mountains lost everything? We're getting $750 per human being. That's not hyperbole. That's not slanted news. That's what it is. We are getting $750 per person. After a lot of mistakes were made in this one. I did not realize how many mistakes were made, and I'm going to keep most of that to myself, but a lot of mistakes were made that could have mitigated this disaster. I don't know what's changed in the last 10 years. I used to live in Cullowhee, where Western Carolina is, and we had a situation similar to this a while back. Probably back in the 90s, we had like 2 weeks of rain, and the French Broad River got up to the bridge. And I remember thinking to myself, if they'd have had a Hugo, which was the last time North Carolina was absolutely devastated by a hurricane, if they had a Hugo, all that'd be underwater. And I kept saying that, and they're like, oh, well, they let the dam out before stuff like that happens. I'm like, okay, well, they didn't do that this time. And that probably resulted in a lot of death, a lot of property damage, because they were already swollen from the rains that we already had. 14 inches wiped out a whole lot of people. That's what I know from boots on the ground. We're getting ready to put boots on the ground again tomorrow. I have to go to Morganton to do a property assessment. But for the folks in North Carolina, we are on the way. Since the federal government ain't going to help us, and fuck them, we're on the way. We'll be on the way to look out for you and your family and everything else. We'll try to get your homes mitigated as quickly as possible. Thank you for your patience. Thank you, everybody. In fact, that's what the phone was ringing right there. Somebody wanting to know what day I was going to be out there. It really is bad here in North Carolina. So if you have thoughts and prayers to spare some for us, because we ain't getting any help, and it's an election year, and everybody's fighting over us like it's a fucking divorce and we're the kids. And it's getting kind of old. It's getting kind of tired. We're getting kind of crabby about that shit. So if people are just a little less friendly, that's why. And all of this could have been avoided really simply, which we'll probably get into that when they do the disaster mitigation, when they do the disaster results and what could have happened to mitigate this thing. One simple thing could have fixed it all. We'll get into that as the time comes. But if you have thoughts and prayers, please spare them up for North Carolina. We're going through some shit, and $795 ain't enough to cover it. Okay? So I hope the rest of y'all have a good evening. Everybody else who's not in North Carolina, hug the people close to you just a little bit tighter, because a lot of people lost a lot of people this week. And it's something that should have never happened. So if you got people around you that you love, hug them just a little bit tighter. And let's quit bitching and moaning about wrestling, guys. Seriously. If you're going to have a debate, have some decent talking points, because I'm not in the mood. I know a lot of other people aren't in the mood anymore. Things we thought we wouldn't be talking about today, we're still talking about them. Keep that in mind. Okay, guys? Just remember that. And I just want to say one more thing, and that is good night, America, wherever you are, and we'll see you on Sunday. Hope you have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the football game. Enjoy family. Do that for me. Okay? And I want to thank you all. We had 37 in here. I'm going to give you one last shout. And I'm going to close this out for the night. Peace out, guys.